Yeah, hey everybody, this is Ian from Mindful Marketplace, and we have a really exciting new challenge for those of you who want to learn how to cultivate more compassion, more connection, and more metta or loving kindness in your everyday experience, especially as we all navigate these super challenging moments together. So, recording this on December 16th, 2020, and we're actually planning on doing the challenge sometime in the first couple of days of January. And it's going to be 11 days, and I'm going to cover a few of the practices that we are going to be doing together in a private community, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. And we're hoping to actually do this over and over again with many different cohorts and many different groups, and hopefully really make an impact in both our own inner lives, our own sense of psychological well-being, as well as really using this practice as a springboard by which we're calling, ourselves metta mercenaries or metta, like people who are spreading love and kindness in this invisible way through the world through this practice. So I'm going to cover really quickly some of the challenges that people have shared with us over the last couple of weeks in terms of doing this practice in its most fundamental form, which is sending loving kindness or compassion to ourselves, to others that we see in our lives, to our loved ones, and to difficult people that we encounter in our day-to-day lives. This could be your boss, it could be your partner even, although it's probably not best to use people that we're romantically involved with. But it can be really anybody who presents a challenge to your own well-being in the world. It can certainly be to a stranger, someone you see on TV, a politician, a world leader, anybody. This practice done properly can really transform your experience of relating to other people. And I'm going to cover again some of the different days in the challenge. So there's loving kindness for yourself. And a lot of people, that's day one. And a lot of people find the practice of extending compassion or love or a sense of well-wishing for ourselves to be exceptionally difficult and problematic and full of all sorts of kind of strange challenges that you wouldn't think we would have, right? I mean, sending loving kindness to yourself ought to be the simplest form of self-care that we can muster. But for many of us, there is so much negative chatter and, inner, the voices in our heads are often so mean-spirited and critical and opinionated and visit upon ourselves such negativity that many people give up this practice in the very beginning simply because they can't actually extend a sense of loving kindness to themselves to get the practice off of the ground. So we're going to cover that in a fair amount of detail with some unique, kind of bridge practices that help anybody who is struggling to feel a sense of self-compassion to generate it relatively easily. So one of the practices that we're going to do on one of the days is practicing loving kindness or compassion for our younger self. And for me, I've always found that getting a picture out of myself from a young age and looking at how innocent and how, cute and how, whatever the words are that I can direct at my, 5-year-old self, there's something that's so naive and so pure and so innocent about that picture to me that I can feel a lot of self-love for the current version of myself, even when I don't have a lot of self-love to offer myself in the moment, right? So if I'm struggling with, self-criticism or feeling like I'm failing or not doing well enough in the world, looking at that picture and sending loving kindness to myself to my younger self, using a very specific set of verbal prompts, is really quite helpful. It loosens something that's quite concrete in my mind that is really quite helpful. So another day we're going to work on, if that's not effective for you, there's another version of this, which is sending loving kindness to your future self. And I can do the same practice. It's a little bit different, but I see a version of myself maybe 30 years from now, and I can feel that same sense of self-love, or I can send loving kindness to that version of me that may be at the end of my life, and I don't feel the traps of feeling as caught or stuck or critical. I feel love for that version of myself that I see in my mind's eye, hopefully many years down the road. So another simple practice that sounds silly, but it really isn't if you're struggling to feel self-compassion, is visualizing puppies or kittens or funny animal videos, watching those. And if you're a puppy person or an animal-loving person, I think many of us are, it becomes very easy to connect with something simple and pure and free, and something that is absent all of the kind of, the societal structures and narrative that often has a negative, valence. And we can just connect with something that is light and easy and that fills us with joy. And that naturally builds a bridge to feeling loving to ourselves and to others. But again, at this point, we're really focused on sending love to ourselves. So, you want to really generate all of this. You want to stoke up these, positive emotions, and then feel yourself basking in the gravy or the ambiance or the, whatever the right word is. You want to feel yourself bathing in this sense of, compassion and kindness and affection for yourself. So another little hack, if you want to call these that, for being able to generate love for yourself is to picture yourself feeling loved by somebody on a day or in a moment where you really genuinely felt love. Maybe the way your father or mother looked at you, or somebody, a sibling, or somebody that you really, connected with in a really deep and meaningful way, maybe are still connected with. And you can feel yourself being loved in this very non-judgmental, pure, innocent, and authentic way. And it's a great way of generating, again, this sense of being worthy of your own love for yourself. So as we move beyond these sorts of practices, later on in the community, we're going to start working with some more difficult practices, but that can be really, really helpful, really healing, and really transformative if you're on a, spiritual path and or on a path simply of trying to, live in the most harmonious and comfortable way in your own skin and in your environment. And I think for all of us, that ought to be our primary charge. So we're going to work on practices for your disowned self. So, sending loving kindness to the broken self, or the angry self, or the jealous self, or the self that feels like a failure. There are ways of working with the various selves that we all harbor within ourselves in skillful ways that can really be incredibly healing. The same way, we're also going to be working on a practice on another day, that we're actually getting in touch with the parts of our body that sustain us, that keep us alive, that don't ask anything of us in return, and that we completely tend to overlook they're even there. So your liver, your heart, your kidneys, all of these parts of your body that are doing the heavy lifting to keep you, above ground, that none of us ever recognize in a, loving and kindful way, right? So we're actually going to work on these practices that have this idea of introspection, where you're actually going into the body. Interoceptive, I guess, would be the appropriate word here. You're going into the body, and you're going to be thankful for the parts of your body that are working moment by moment, even as you listen to this, without any ask from you. They don't require any thanks. They don't do anything other than work on your behalf without any sense of being or of requiring you to be appreciative of their gifts. And again, these sound like esoteric or weird or eccentric things, but in my own experience, you can really get this sense of appreciation for your body, for your inner experience of being a body, and really find so many more things are working than the things that are not working. And this can be especially helpful for people who have body issues. If you're feeling that you don't love your body, right? This can be a really interesting exercise for falling back in love with your body. So as we get into days 8 and 9 and beyond, we're going to be working on some of the more traditional loving kindness practices, like sending loving kindness or metta for a stranger, for a difficult person, for a group. This can be really, really powerful. It's something that's called social metta, where you're actually sending loving kindness to groups that you may not understand or not ordinarily engage with or not generally interact with. And it can be a really, really interesting exercise in actually connecting with parts of the community that you generally don't intersect with. And you may find yourself, if you're like me, getting insight into your own inner experience, your sense of judgmentalness, a sense of how we often run these sort of societal scripts in our minds. There's an old saying, and I don't want to misstate this, but it's something like, we don't think our own thoughts, we think the culture's thoughts. And I think that's really true, and this is a practice that can actually get you to see how, people that you may not like, or people who may even say things that you think are offensive or, unethical or wrong, sometimes are acting from a place that they don't even recognize from the standpoint, or they don't even understand why they are the way they are. And sometimes you can do practices that can demonstrate how so many of us are really acting out these scripts that are not our own, that might have been implanted by our parents or our grandparents or our immediate communities, or and there's a certain sense of compassion that can arise through that practice as well. We're going to cover something called Tonglen, which is a practice of relieving suffering in the world through the breath, which can be quite powerful. And there's much to say about that can be really, really transformative, both for ourselves and for others. We're going to cover what I think is one of the most helpful mindfulness practices that there is, and it's something called Jamais Vu, which is the Well, the jamais vu is the idea of seeing things that you see in the world as if you're seeing them from the first time, for the first time. So it's this notion of the mindfulness of beginnings and endings, and actually going out into the world in an active and engaged way, or even in your own home, and looking around at the people, the places, the spaces that you see, and recognizing them for the first time. So looking at your husband or your wife or your children or your parent or your boss or your neighbor or your home, and looking at these things rather in this very kind of automatic way, but actually sinking into them and seeing them as if it was the first time. Or conversely, seeing those things as if you're seeing them for the last time. So this can bring a real power of nowness into your immediate experience when you're actually looking at somebody that you love, and rather than taking them for granted, or rather than thinking to yourself, the same old, you actually imagine that this is the last conversation. What would you say? Like, how much more loving would you be? Or you look at this person that you spent 25 years with and, raised children with, or whatever your situation is, and you imagine like you're looking at them as if it was the first time. Or you challenge yourself to notice new things about, old people and places and spaces in your life. And it just brings this incredible connection to your experience of being alive in the moment in a way that is quite fun, it's quite transformative, and it's quite powerful as well. So all these things we're going to be doing together in a new group. If you're interested in joining us, we're going to do lots of these, and we're going to start the first one in the beginning of January. It's going to be free. Down the road, we'll probably have some sort of fee structure for this, but if you want to join the first cohort, again, it's not going to cost anything, so I'd encourage you to, respond to this email and, let us know that you're in, and we'll send you an invite in the next week or so that will give you the details of, how to actually access the private community. If you have any questions, you can send an email to hi@mindfulmarketplace.com. Again, my name is Ian. There are some other folks here who can help you as well, but we are hoping to really use these mini challenges, these 7 to 10 day challenges, to really make a meaningful impact in both our own lives, as well as using these the superpowers that come from looking at the world in a brand new way, through kindness, through connection, through compassion, through a sense of gratitude and feeling love for people that we see that are strangers to us, that really, I think, can really transform the world in a moment where we truly, need it badly. I think we can all agree. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you in the beginning of January when we begin our first group. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.